Hello and welcome to another week of Sambo iRacing. We're at Circuiit De Ledenon in the MX5 for yet another track guide, and it's a tricky little circuit this one, but it is going to make for some quite entertaining racing this week. If you are new to my channel, thanks, welcome. What we do is we do one lap where I slow it all down, show you my braking markers, and then we go full pace from the chase cam and then full pace back in the cockpit with the driving line on for those of you that use the driving line and want to see where my braking markers are in relation to that. If you are new to the MX5, or if you've been following me for my track guides in the Ford or the V and you haven't actually had a go in the Mazda, or maybe you did originally and you hated it or anything like that, give it another go. Watch these guides. It is such a fun car to actually race. I've been really enjoying it these last few weeks, so give it a go, enjoy yourself. And anyway, let's start the lap from the cockpit. Okay, so now we're in the cockpit, usual thing. This is a fixed setup series, so I am using the fixed setup. All my laps and setups and everything like that are available to view on Garage 61 Sandbrooks. Have a search, you can double check. So, default brake bias, everything like that. We're over on the right hand side, crossing the line to start the lap, up to fourth gear, and what we're looking for is this change of colour in asphalt right ahead of us, just before the cones. As we get there, we're going to start turning towards the apex, and we're still 100% throttle. And it's only just as we get to this white line that we're coming across now that I'll actually start doing a lift. Now, turns 1, 2, and 3 are one big left-hander. So as we go through there, what we're going to look to do is do a big lift, and anytime basically we need to get the rear rotated. As we feel that, we're just coming off the throttle a little bit more. I'm going to be feathering the throttle as we go down through the gears from fourth all the way down. So we're using the brake and the throttle just to feel for the grip, and we're trying to go as fast as possible around here. So I'm still on the brakes, changing down to third with a little blip there, and again I'm just trailing it off, putting in some more throttle input as we go around turn 2, big cut on the inside, and we're just feeling for the grip with the throttle. So you're going to be doing a fair amount of work with both feet at the same time here. So dropping it down again to second gear, a little bit more brake, trying to get the car rotated, and now 100% throttle, as you can see, to give it a quick blast. Coming back off it as I'm trying to rotate the car, and now fully back on the throttle, and just feeling for the grip, still trying to cut this final turn of turn 3, and then back on the throttle one last time, and that's where we're going to hold it as we go through. Cut the next corner from 4 up to third gear. Now, it's a real difficult sort of braking marker here. If you see right in front of me, you can see on the line there is a little elbow, a little kink in it. So it's just as we go over that kink. It's going to be harder to spot when you've got cars in front of you, so use their brake lights and try not to run into the back of them. But just as we go over that kink, I'm going to brake hard in a straight line for turn 5, so I'm at maximum braking. I'm going to start turning in towards the apex. I'm going to drop it down to second gear, still trailing off the brake, down to first gear. And as soon as I get down to first gear, getting back on the throttle to 100% throttle straight off. The car's going to run out, get it back over to the right-hand side, up to second gear, hold it in second gear, and then change to third, apparently. Sorry, I thought I held it there. As we come up to this next corner, there is no braking marker. You're just going to have to practice and get a feel for it. But it is like 3 or 4 car lengths before the turn starts happening. And again, going to brake hard in a straight line up to about 90%, trailing it off down towards the apex. I put a bit of maintenance throttle on, so when I drop it down to second gear now, as we cut the corner as best as possible, we're trying not to get our left-hand tyres over the lip on the left-hand side here. So we get down to the apex, drop it down to first gear, immediately get back on the throttle. So as you're coming off the apex, you're at 100% throttle. Car's going to drift out wide. I'm as far right as you can be, so if you get your left-hand tyres over the white line, you are going to have an X here and ruin your lap. Up to second gear. This next corner is blind, but it's absolutely fine because we're taking it at 100%, so we want to take as much of a sort of cut as we possibly can. Up to third gear, and what we're looking for here is just a lift. So again, we're not wanting to cut the sort of line any further than I'm doing, because if you get your right-hand tyres on the line, then it does give you an X. It's quite stringent on this. And over on the right-hand side, you can see the change of colour in asphalt. This is quite a good marker if you've got cars in front of you. So as we get past that, we're going to start turning towards the apex, and we're just going to do a big lift down to about 10%, 15% on the throttle, cutting the corner. Going to jump over it a little bit. Once the car's settled and is back down on all four wheels, we're going to get back on 100% throttle. You can come out really, really wide here. So the amount of times I watch people just stick inside the track, there is no off track here on the left-hand side, so we can take it nice and wide. And what we're looking for just ahead of us is that last drain, or the last grid on the floor just before the turn. It's actually the second to last one that's there. Once we get there, we're going to brake hard up to about 90%, immediately start trailing it off, dropping it down to second gear, looking down to the apex, down to first gear, back on 100% throttle nice and early to help you with the hill that we have to fight, up to second gear, back over to the right hand side. So this next one's a blind turn, so it's just before we crest the hill. We're going to start turning back left again with 100% throttle, up to third gear, cut the corner really harsh here, but keeping your right hand tyres just on the asphalt. And now we're going to straighten up, and as we straighten the steering wheel, that's when I'm going to brake really quite hard to try and get through this next corner. So up to about 2/3 braking power, trailing it off down to second gear, still trailing off the brake all the way down to the apex, down to first gear. And as we start building back up on the throttle, this is quite a slippy corner to come out of. We go up to 100% quite late here, so I'm actually feathering the throttle just to make sure that I don't get the wheel spin and have the rear kick out. You can cut this corner quite drastically, up to 100% still, up to third gear. And again, we're going to try and cut this corner a little bit, and we're looking for our final corner and the final braking. So what we're looking to do is we want the car to be aiming at this green inner curbing here. So we're going to try and cut it as best as possible. So we're still in third gear, and as we straighten the car up to go over this curbing, to cut it really quite well, we go up to about 90% brake. So it's really hard braking zone here, but there's plenty of grip. Drop it down to first gear. And now, only now, do we start trailing it off as we look for this final apex. And you start getting back on the throttle really early, cutting the apex quite tightly, getting back up to 100% throttle. And now we're going to be holding the throttle and getting the car back over to the left-hand side as soon as possible. The car may oversteer a bit there, so just a little correction if necessary. We're now going to cut this little corner, but you can't get your right-hand tyres over the line, otherwise you will have an off-track. As we go uphill all the way to the line, and across the line for a 133.592. So I've had a quick look on YouTube. This is going to be a competitive lap if you can redo it. My Ghost is my best lap, B-lap Ghost is in the description. So if you want to race against my car, feel free to download that. Right, now we'll go full speed from the chase cam. Righty-ho, full speed. So over to the right-hand side, looking for the change in asphalt. Start the turn in, we'll lift. Now we're feathering between brake and throttle, third gear, cutting the corner down to second gear. Again, trying to rotate the car, big cut on the left hand side, full throttle, cut again on the right. Looking for the kink, and now we're trailing it off, down to first gear, over to the right hand side. Find your braking marker. Trail it off down to the apex, into first gear, up to second gear, cutting the corner, full throttle, into third gear, just a big lift now, back on the throttle, nice wide entry, down to second, down to first gear. You can see on the inputs the trail braking. Up to third gear, blind corner, hitting it full speed. Now we're braking hard, feathering the car round, finding the grip, trying not to spin it now, up to second. Do a cut on this corner, slight cut. Final braking marker, really quite hard, braking for a long time, up to first. And over and across the line. And one final run through with the driving line on from the cockpit where I'll shut up. Thanks again for watching. I've been Sambo iRacing. I'll see you guys in the week.